Evening, y'all. My name's Robert Adams, and today we're going to be talking about 5 things you should know about service animals. Let's go. So, for today's episode, we're going to be talking about service animals, or more specifically, service dogs, and how they benefit society, and some things that you may not know about that you need to know about if you don't interact with them on a day-to-day basis. Now, me personally, I do not have a service dog, so therefore I'm not an expert on this subject, but I did get someone who is.
Hi, I'm Janice. I am blind. I have had a service dog since 2003, and I've been blind for half my life now.
This is Wembley. He is a service dog. So the first thing I would like to talk about before we get into the list is specifically seeing eye dogs. Seeing eye dogs come from a nonprofit organization called the Seeing Eye, based out of Morristown, New Jersey. These dogs are official seeing eye dogs. Much like we refer to all facial tissues as Kleenex, or down here in the South we all refer to sodas as Coke. Seeing eye dogs come from the Seeing Eye. Not all guide dogs are referred to as Seeing Eye dogs because there's multiple organizations across America or across the world that train guide dogs. With that in mind, we also want to point out that there are a multitude of jobs that service dogs perform. Not every service dog is a guide dog to help a blind person. There are service dogs that are specifically trained for PTSD, anxiety, if you have epilepsy, so stuff like that they are trained to recognize and to help with. So not all of them are created equal. So let's get into this list. Wembley, help me out, dog.
Number 1. Please do not touch a working service dog.
Service dogs are trained to perform a certain job or service. When you touch them or interact with them, when they're typically working, whether they're wearing a harness or a vest, it can disrupt their ability to accurately perform that service.
No touchy.
When my seeing eye dog and I are walking around and someone tries to come up and touch him or flirt with him, interact with him, make little oochie goochie doggy sounds and whatnot, he can become very distracted and not pay attention to what he's doing. In turn, I can end up bumping into trees, bumping into people. If I was crossing a street, the last thing I would want is for my dog's reaction time to be taken away and his attention diverted from whether or not I'm telling him to make a safe crossing or not.
He is a good and smart master, and he made me this collar so that I may talk. Squirrel!
Number 2. Service dogs can be regular dogs at home.
So depending on the job and the service that the dog performs, when you are at home, the dog may not need to be quote-unquote on the clock, and they are free to be just a regular dog.
In terms of Wembley specifically, Seeing Eye has taught all of their dogs not to get on any furniture such as sofas and beds and whatnot. And Wembley knows when he is at home, my sofa is fair game, and when he is out and about, say we're staying at a hotel or whatnot, he will not get on any furniture.
Number 3. Service dogs must be allowed in public.
A service dog must be allowed to go to all public spaces that the person with the disability has access to. This would include restaurants, hotels, hospitals, retail stores, and other businesses.
Service dogs have public access. For example, my seeing eye dog and I, when the person with a disability is actually in attendance. So what I mean is if somebody were to take my seeing eye dog to a grocery store like our local HEB without me, that would be a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Also, I would like to add that service dogs, such as seeing eye dogs, should not be confused with emotional support animals. Emotional support animals actually only have access through things like an airplane in order to travel with their handler, and to certain instances like hotels and other places of accommodation, again, to be able to provide mental support for their handler. They do not have to be allowed in public spaces like actual service dogs are.
Number 4, we can be asked to leave if we do not behave. Hey, why is that cat here? Get that cat out of my shot. Scram!
So while a service dog must be allowed in public, there is also a case to where the service dog can be asked to leave if they're being unruly or the handler cannot accurately control them. The public space, the retail store business, has the right to ask the handler to remove the dog from the premises.
If Wembley and I were at a retail store and he was being extra sniffy and invasive to the other customers, if he was potentially trying to climb all of the display racks, or just in other instances making himself a nuisance, the store would have the right to ask me to remove him from the premises. I could come back by myself without the dog.
Number 5, you can ask about the service performed, not the disability.
So when a person with a service animal, or in this case a service dog, enters a public space, you do have the ability to ask what the service that dog performs is. You are not actually allowed to ask what the person's disability is, which is a part of HIPAA, which if you're familiar with HIPAA, that is the law or the act that keeps medical information safe. It's like no one can just go to your doctor and say, hey, you were treating John Doe over there, what was wrong with him? The doctor can't tell you, and you're not allowed to share that kind of information. The same thing, you are not allowed to ask a person with a disability, hey, what's wrong with you? Because they don't have to share that, and it's not a requirement to allow that service animal in a public space.
In many instances, you can see an individual with a disability and automatically tell if, they have a specific type of disability, whether that be cochlear implants, hearing aids, very potentially obvious visual signs of mobility, for example, being in a wheelchair and whatnot. But in other instances, like I've been told very often, I don't look blind. You can't know what the disability is. And if I were to walk into a restaurant, say a local wing place like Pluckers, somebody can't ask me, oh, hey, what's wrong with you? Why do you have a dog? They can say, is that a service dog? To which I could answer yes. And they could then say, oh, what does this dog do for you? And I would be able to and would be required to say, oh, well, Wembley guides me. He knows how to do follow. He knows how to guide me around obstacles, turn left, turn right, and he is basically my eyes. Now, in telling somebody that, there is a good potential that they will be able to surmise that I have a visual impairment, that I am blind. However, for other instances, for example, if a dog with a handler who has PTSD provides his handler with compression therapy, this dog whose learned behavior of compression therapy could be something that is used for anxiety, could be used for other disabilities as well. And so in those cases, it does not obviously disclose the health issues or the disability specifically that the individual has. One more thing in addition that Wembley told me that it was necessary for everybody to know is the fact that service dogs are very compliant, well-trained, responsible dogs. That means that if I give him a command like forward, or if I give him a command to go underneath a table at a restaurant, he will do what I request of him promptly. He will do it very quietly, and he will be very well behaved. One of the most common things that I hear from the public is oh, I didn't know there was a dog there. And that means that Wembley is doing his job, and he's doing his job well. If you should see service dogs with vests or harnesses or any other gear, but they're completely misbehaving, or they're just behaving in a way that you would assume a service dog should not behave, i.e. under control, it is completely legitimate to go up to the person and say, "Hi, what service does that dog actually perform for you? Would you mind demonstrating those services?" And they should be able to demonstrate up to at least 3 of those upon request.
This is Mochi. He's just a cute Shiba Inu. And I think the one last thing I would like to add to this is we're starting to see it now more and more common for people to bring their pet dogs to public places like retail stores and a lot of places in an effort to not be like conflicting to these customers, to these people. They will allow it just as long as, like we talked about, your dog isn't like acting a fool or anything. The thing to keep in mind with this is that there are people that have service dogs that need those dogs to focus on providing that service. When you bring a pet dog into a store, you are potentially distracting the service dog that needs to be able to focus and pay attention. While a service dog is professionally trained to provide that service, deep down they are still a dog, and therefore they may every once in a while be distracted by the fact that there's another dog in their presence. Just because they're a professional service dog doesn't mean that they're not going to pay attention. While a lot of them are trained to try to ignore other dogs, they may still be distracted. Keep that in mind when you go into public places, especially if you want to take your pet dog with you, that you could run the risk of this dog not being able to perform its service properly because you want to bring your pet dog. Now, I'm not saying I'm completely against you bringing your pet dog, but just be mindful. Because of this video, what I'm trying to do is make sure that people understand that this is what's out there. This is what you need to know about. If you are in a public store and you see a person that has a service dog, like we said, usually indicated by a vest or some kind of a harness, that if you have your pet dog with you, make sure your pet dog is leashed, is within reach, and it's not going to run away or possibly even bark and start yapping at the service dog, because they just don't need that distraction. That service dog needs to be able to perform that specific service. If they are distracted, it may be harmful to the handler, depending on what the disability is. And that's gonna wrap it up. If you like this video, please do me a couple of favors. Hit that like, go ahead and share this video with your friends and family so they're all in the know, and hit the subscribe to see other videos that I'm going to be producing. I've got some good ones coming down the pipeline. Hope that you're watching them. Nice to see all y'all again. See y'all in the next video. Say bye, Wimbles.